I disagree. I think everyone needs a purpose, and you see it with retired people that they can't wait to retire, and they retire, and then they think, what do I do? And then they go back into work sometimes.
Yeah, but are we talking? But is it purpose, small p or capital P? Because I think people think that they need purpose.
So I think people without a purpose could be the most dangerous people in the workplace. So, and let me explain. So if that's...
Oh, I love this, Dan.
Go. Should we kick us off?
Yeah. How do I look?
You look well, actually. You're looking really well. Are you still fasting? Are you still...
Fell off the wagon a little bit.
Yeah.
Started the year on a 10-day.
I noticed, actually, because you've just had 2 biscuits.
I know you had that biscuit.
But because I was fasting yesterday.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did 10 days in... I don't know if I mentioned
10 days?
Yeah.
Straight?
10 days of fasting?
Can you eat a certain part
Oh
of the
my
night?
Lord, how did you not fall
food
over
for
or
10 days?
collapse?
That is...
The magic
It's quite impressive, that.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
What was your first go-to food once you finished your fasting?
Good question. Better question.
Yeah.
It was a bit chaotic, actually, because I knew that I should just, something simple. So I was like, I'm going to be good. Alioli on toast. Hot toast, alioli. Oh, the flavours. Even now, it's like, And then I quickly ate that. And then there was some olives and feta in the fridge. And I was like, I've been thinking about them olives and feta. So then, and it just kind of then started to turn into this and I'm just eating it and then there's that other thing that I was thinking about. I've been thinking about cake for 6 days. And then after about 20 minutes, I had not loads, but too much stuff for that point. And then I just felt terrible. And I just sat there.
Was it literally cold turkey for 10 days? Nothing?
Yeah, nothing.
That is...
Your body probably went into kind of crisis mode.
It was, to be honest, I become so focused when I fast. Really focused. Even when I play badminton every week with my friends. And the weeks that I go when I'm fasted, I tend to win. And the weeks that I go that I'm not fasted, I tend to lose.
Do you want to be a bit further away from your mic, by the way?
Sorry, mate. All right. This is I go on about this all the time, so it's finally found an opportunity to. But anyway, yeah, the fasting's going well. Thank you.
Have you? What did you lose after 10 days?
Right.
Other than your sanity.
The scale said a stone. Right. But probably about 3 or 4 pounds of that would have just been because I had a completely empty stomach. Yeah. So probably in the region of 10, 11 pounds. A pound a day, roughly speaking. So,
so did you have anything then? You must have had some sort of
just water and black coffee. And that's it.
That's impressive. Wow. When you play badminton, did you lose? Do you feel like your energy levels drop though? Because obviously you've got nothing inside you.
There was a moment when I was playing where I did kind of, for a moment, I thought, oh, I feel a bit
wafty.
Yeah, but then I pushed through it, and I beat the other guy, and that was sustenance enough. Looking at this fallen fool, and I stood upon his corpse, and
I think I would just be too wafty, and I think I probably would get hangry as well.
It's quite impressive though. So I did the London Marathon a couple of years back, and I decided to make the conscious effort of doing all my runs on an empty stomach. So regardless of how long it was, the furthest I got to it was a 22-mile training run. I decided to do that with nothing on my stomach. Yeah, and you got to about mile 17, and you just feel yourself just draining. You just go lightheaded. You can't really you lose focus. You're just completely out of it. So.
Well, I prefer to run on an empty stomach as well. Because I think I get you're right, it can take its toll, but I think by and large, you're just more with it, do you know what I mean? And then you're not getting stitches as much, you're not carrying around all this
you just feel lighter, don't you?
You just feel lighter, yeah.
I'm the same with swimming. So I do swimming. I do the Great North Swim every year.
Nice.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Always do it on an empty stomach.
Yeah, it's better that way. I think exercise in general on an empty stomach.
Yeah, I do it as well.
You agree?
Yeah. I like fasting. I did it yesterday until dinner time, and then I'm doing it today until dinner time. Other than a white tea.
Bless you.
Doesn't look like it, does it? But
that's
trying.
That's half the fast.
So
why don't you do 3 days with me?
I probably could do 3 days.
Yeah, do it.
Well, I'll do 2 days, then we'll build it up. Did you set off, my last question on this, did you set off wanting to do 10 days, or was it one of them where you get to 5 and think...
No, I set off wanting to do 10 days. And then you get to 5 and you think, halfway there, it's kind of going all right. And then by day 7 or 8, you think, oh God, when's this going to end? But you can't just break it then, can you?
Yeah.
You have to have a brief conversation with yourself. Well, no one's forcing me to do this. Like, I can just... But then you go, well, then 8 days. Like, why?
Yeah.
So I did 10.
Do you not find though, then, that when you start eating again, because they always say, don't they, when you do something like that your body then goes into starvation mode.
Yeah.
Then the minute you start eating, it just goes, right, holy shit, I better just kind of get all this collected up in case I don't get any again. And then you just put it back on again.
I've found that's not been the case for me.
Oh, right,
so like
cool.
basically like I started doing alternate day fasting like about this time last year. And I basically fasted every other day. So like 24, 36 hours or whatever, you know, basically from bedtime, sleep again, wake up. So like, and I did that every other day for probably about 10 months, give or take, whilst exercising and stuff as well. Lost about 5.5 stone, maybe like 6. And then put like a stone on over summer because I went on holiday and everything. And then I sort of fell off the bandwagon after the holiday because it obviously went away, was eating and came back and was just like, nah, fuck it, and just kept eating. And that was like August. So from August till January, I didn't fast. I didn't do a whole lot of exercising and I didn't weigh myself or track my calories. So the last time I weighed myself and the time I weighed myself before the 10 days, I was basically the same weight. So somehow by fasting, it's just like made me less likely to overeat or more conscious of like what I like. I don't know.
It does shrink your stomach.
Maybe, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just I just noticed that it's changed my eating habits, you know. And so because obviously when I'm not fasting and stuff, then I'm like panicking because I'm thinking I'm going to fall back into old habits, and I put in so much effort, like because it's pretty hard to control yourself to like fast every other day, and I did it. You know, and even was slimmer than this at one point, like, because I look back at some videos and you think, mate, like, it could just so easily just all, like, get out of control. But somehow, you know.
It's quite impressive, that.
Yeah,
It is. Well, I'm going to try and segue from fasting into colleague engagement and fail. But, welcome to the podcast, Michelle and Dan.
Hi.
Thank you.
Welcome, yeah. And we brought biscuits
for having us.
for the occasion.
Yeah,
Not
very
for that,
nice biscuits.
Fact, he's already eaten them. So
Yeah.
Wow.
Lovely.
So,
Suit yourself.
I don't know, does one of you want to take the lead then on your organisation, what it is that you do and how you help other businesses?
Yeah, sure. So I set up Pro Development nearly 13 years ago in September. And it was primarily to help work with businesses across Yorkshire and the Humber. So we stayed kind of fairly close to home, helping them with colleague engagement and development. So really sort of focusing on helping them to keep their talent. You know, how do they retain their talent? Recruitment's an absolute nightmare at the moment. So really making sure that the good people that they get in, they keep them, they develop them, they help them to be the best they can be. And so we offer a whole range of things from colleague engagement surveys to leadership and management development, team building, people development and coaching and anything really in that thing. And mainly small, medium-sized businesses in the region. So yeah,
Good
love
stuff.
it. Love it.
So how did you find yourself in this field of work then?
I've always sort of been in that field of work, but I was working the latter few years, I was working for a big global company and probably found myself the most disengaged I'd ever been.
Right.
So just really didn't enjoy working for a big global company. Didn't feel like I was, well, interestingly, I was doing a coaching qualification at the time while I was there. And as part of that, got a coach to work with. And we did some kind of work on me and what was important to me. And what kept coming out was making a difference. And I had that kind of hallelujah moment of, oh, this is why I'm not really engaged here, because I'm just not making a difference. So just decided on a complete wing and a prayer that I would set up my own business. Didn't have a clue what I was doing.
And how did that go?
It was
13
funny.
years ago.
It's funny, I was laughing. We were talking about it the other day. I can still remember sitting. I had an office at the back of my garage and I remember sitting at this computer thinking, all right, now what do I do? And then somebody said, you need a website. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And we built a website and I can remember sat there thinking, great, day launch, phone's going to start ringing, of course, completely delusional. And then I just started going out networking and meeting lots of people. And fast forward 13 years now, there's a team of 11 of us, and we're kind of working all over the region helping fab businesses. So it's been a bit of a journey. A bit of a journey.
And over those 13 years, obviously, I'm trying to think, you've had a pandemic in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
So how has engagement changed over the last 13 years?
Yeah, I would say quite significantly. Particularly, I think COVID has been the main game changer for engagement, colleague engagement. Stuff that probably wasn't as important to people seems to be far more important to people now. So we were chatting the other day, and one of the things that we keep seeing in our surveys and is coming through in a lot of research is sense of purpose. So I don't think I've ever seen that as much pre-COVID as what we see now, that is so important to people, that they feel they've got that sense of purpose. But I guess when you think about it logically, we all pretty much were told that, we were on our way out, and if we kind of left our homes, we weren't safe, and we've never experienced anything like that before in our lifetime. So I guess then that's suddenly thinking more deeply about, what is this all about? What am I here to do? We saw a lot of people come out of the workplace. Lots of people decided, right, this isn't for me anymore. Lots of people moved, said, actually, my company worked great and, didn't support me. So I'm off. So suddenly that's made a big change in terms of all the issues around recruitment, but also I think people are looking for that sense of purpose in their businesses. And a lot of the businesses that we work with, they don't make that clear enough to people. They don't really let them know, this is kind of the difference that you can make and the sense of purpose we can offer. So I was talking to somebody recently who does holiday lets, and we were talking a bit about the famous NASA story of the cleaner who was like, I helped man get to the moon, and I always think that's like a utopia, isn't it? Is people being able to connect to that. And he was like, well, it's all right if you're NASA, isn't it? That's a great mission to have people, but we just do holiday lets. And I was like, well, that's not really inspiring, is it? Saying we just do holiday lets. But actually what you're doing is creating memories for families and people, that they'll look back on in years to come. And he could see like a bit of a light bulb go on for him. Right, yeah, because that's the difference, isn't it, between somebody then being really engaged in cleaning that cottage as opposed to somebody who's I'm just a cleaner cleaning this cottage. So it's that sense of purpose, I think, definitely. And then, of course, flexibility.
Yeah, COVID's a long-term thing. Into elephant in the room is work-life balance. People gone from working at home over COVID to then going back into the office, and that's don't work for everyone, does it? It's the younger generation. They're a lot more stern, and we're having a conversation as well about your two young boys. So Michelle's two young boys have the mentality of, well, why are you working past 5 o'clock? You don't get paid past 5 o'clock, so why are you doing it? I want to go home, and it's worked into the work from home balance as well. People are getting better packages saying you can work from home 2-3 days a week, and it's a game changer compared to people who are still stuck in the old of, oh, we were doing this before COVID and it worked. We want to get back to that, and then all of a sudden people are disengaged again because they enjoyed working from home. They enjoy taking a dog out for a walk to kind of get that break and fresh air. So
I completely agree with you.
Here we go.
We've opened it up now, haven't we?
Yeah, there we go. Contention. Go on, Ed.
Yeah, well, I think I've seen in the news a lot. There's a lot of businesses that are getting back to the office and encouraging, maybe now dictating that people do get back to the office. Is that something that you're seeing when you speak to businesses or not?
It's a real mix, and I think this is what's really fascinating. It feels like at the moment it's a bit of a perfect storm with this kind of stuff. So we're finding we had some businesses pre-COVID who were basically saying, we can't have people working from home. They'll be doing the washing and watching Jeremy Kyle, and you just think, really? But you know that isn't actually what happens in the main. Most people do far more and are far more productive at home than they are at work. So I think COVID really obviously demonstrated that and gave the evidence that actually, we can make this work. So what we're now seeing is you've either got probably about a third of people are saying, right, we want you all back in the office, like you were saying. And then people are a bit like, oh, right, what, do you not trust us now? We were doing great. And actually now he's saying you don't trust us to work from home anymore. So the trust thing, which is really significant in engagement, if you break that trust element, you're on a bit of a rocky road, really. So we're seeing some of that. where people are being asked to come back and they don't want to come back. And we've got others where they're being asked to come back or asked to continue to stay working at home, but actually want to be in. They don't like working from home.
Yeah, we see that.
So there's got to be, I think that for me personally, I think you can't dictate one or the other. You kind of got to have some flexible approach. It isn't one size fits all. Somebody might want to be in, somebody else might want to be at home. One of our clients has done something called smart working, and I think that's been really successful for them because it's not saying we want you in 2 days a week or, you've got to work from home this or be in that. They've said there are certain activities in the business that definitely lend themselves better to being together collectively. So let's decide and determine what those are. And there's no kind of, because otherwise you end up with half the people dialing in, half the people in the office. And then people get a bit like, well, why are they not coming in? We've all made the effort to come in. So they've kind of put some kind of boundaries around that, and that seems to be working really well. And I think that's a good approach to take, is find the way that works for you, that works for everybody. But don't dictate too much about, why are we saying 3 days a week or 2 days a week everybody's got to be in? Like, where's that coming from? What's the kind of remit? Or
I think it's small steps to get people back in, and rather than go from everyone's working from home, everyone needs to be in. I think businesses are kind of breaking that down and slowly encouraging that. We disagree, obviously, on many things, not everything. But I'm kind of an office first person. I love being around my team. And we work in technology, so a lot of our challenge is communication. And it's when you're building software, it's you're trying to build something which is just in somebody's head a lot of the time. And so it's how do you get that out of somebody's head onto paper and then ultimately into code and into software. And that comes down to great communication. And how do you have great communication? Well, for me, it's stood next to somebody with a whiteboard and drawing stuff out and communicating and understanding body language. It is, I love a whiteboard.
Maybe it depends on like what sort of industry you work in as well, though.
Yeah.
Because even in this building, there are definitely certain departments that like working from home is not really.
Well, there's jobs that you physically can't. So if you work in a factory and you're working on the line, then you physically can't work from home. So, but then it's the best businesses who have the top engagement at that point identify that, and then they can go, okay, so we can't let you work from home, but the sales department, they might have a little bit more flexibility. They might be a little bit more remote because they're going out to clients, but they know full well that their product line can't do that. So they need to think of something different to kind of engage them. And okay, you can't do that because these are the reasons why, and communicate, which I'm sure communication will come up later on. But it's thinking of outside the box to ensure that they've got something that the sales team hasn't got. And that's kind of how to get the best out of it.
It's finding, isn't it, that what's the flexibility for somebody? So I was talking to a guy the other day and he was saying, we've always opened on a Saturday and we always expected all our guys who are like the mechanics to be on a Saturday. And actually we realised we didn't need to be open on a Saturday, and actually giving that Saturday back to people was really important. So it's about people thinking a bit differently, I think, isn't it? And then looking at, right, okay, so we do need them in this, factory because that's what they do, but actually how can we be a bit more flexible? And my big thing when I set up the business was I never ever wanted anybody to miss like a school play or a, really important family things, because at the end of the day, that's what's important to people. So, making sure that you've got enough flexibility to give people that work-life balance, because I think that's all we're after, isn't it? All of us, we just want a bit of work-life balance.
For sure.
And a bit of connection. So I'm completely with you on that. When you're collaborating, I think there is something that it's interesting. After COVID, they were talking about the great resignation, weren't they? All these people like leaving and coming out of the workplace. Now they're talking about the great disconnection, that people are getting quite disconnected. And I think it's that struggle to collaborate on things when you're all working kind of distantly from each other. So I think, again, finding those ways to collaborate together face to face, I think is really important.
Yeah. And I do think it's come full circle. I've interviewed various people over the last 6 months where they've said, is it work from home or in the office? And I say, well, bit of hybrid, but I like people in the office, and is that a problem? And the response I've had a few times is no, I don't want to be sat in my bedroom anymore in front of a laptop. I want to get in the office and be with people.
Which is fair. Which is fair, because I think for me, like, obviously I like the flexibility to hybrid work, but I don't want it to be every day. And it'll come in bouts, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's more convenient to work from home because maybe the kids are ill or whatever, so like, could I see myself working fully remotely? I don't really know. Emmy was telling me about a guy that she was talking to who worked from home, and he needed to create sort of a feeling of distinction from working at home, like and then actually being at home. So like every morning,
you put a suit and tie on.
He would get dressed, put shoes on,
go for a walk
around the block,
and
come into his front door as though he was arriving at work. And then when he finished, he would do the same.
We've recommended that. So it's interestingly, I was reading something I wrote in just after COVID. Somebody had asked for top tips, on how to kind of work remotely, and that was one of the ones I'd put in there. To actually find a way to distinguish, a way that you are not working or you're coming into work. And actually, one of them is just go for a little walk around the block before your day, or
which is
I think it's great.
Like I wonder do you think that actually works? Like psychologically?
Definitely.
So I used to struggle a lot with it. So I used to work from home all the time. So I used to live a bit further down south, and the business was based up north. So, but it was a pure sales role. So I was doing a lot of client meetings, but because it was over COVID, everything was it was over Teams rather than face to face. So he wasn't getting out. And I realised what I was doing is at the end of the day, because I was kind of still, and I set up in my lounge. So I finished work and I'd end up sitting on a sofa, which is literally like inches away from where I was working. And I couldn't switch off at night. So then I had loads of arguments with my partner because she's like, you're always working, you're on the phone responding to emails because you haven't got that time to switch off what you have from a commute or from an office or whatever it may be. So one thing I had to do is I had to wake up and I had to put a shirt and tie on. I had to do it. I had to feel like I was going into the office to try and actually get that sense of, okay, I'm traveling to work. And as soon as I finished, I closed my laptop down, I went upstairs, put on something comfy, put a pair of tracky bottoms on, chucked the shirt off, really happy, got out for some runs, a run or exercise on the bike or something. And then kind of like I had to completely shut my phone off completely because even though I'm still going with that routine of setting down, I'm still in my workplace. So I had to make that conscious effort of I'm not touching my phone tonight. I had to the point where I had to buy a separate phone to be able to then say that's my work phone and I'm not touching that anymore. But the routine is so important. I think especially, and that's the perks of what you're going for is it is hybrid. I like you being in there, I like getting the communication. There's more to that as well. It's if they're in the office, they're going to have 35 minutes, half hour commute back where they can kind of reflect on their day.
I have 25 minutes here, 25 minutes home, and it's perfect. I can 25 minutes just to start to tune into what's going on in the day, 25 minutes to reflect a little bit, and then I'm home and I'm with the kids. I probably should shut off as much more than I should, but So Dan, introduce yourself. So you've been with the business for 3 or 4 months, is that right?
Coming into the 5th month. I think.
Okay,
it's flown by. I feel like I've been here quite a while actually, but
forever.
So I joined the business to help out Michelle for the long-term plans of kind of replacing Michelle so she can then jet off around the world in retirement and live a great life.
Nice idea.
Yeah, that's the plan.
I like it.
But my background's sales and marketing, so I've been in that sort of industry, working in the corporate world, similar to what Michelle did. That sort of initially you're there, didn't like it, just felt like a number. Entered the world of recruitment and realised that I love helping businesses with their problems, and that's kind of how I met Michelle. I tried to kind of sell a service to her initially to say, we can help you replace your lost talent. And we kind of just clicked instantly. Ended up being what meant to be an hour meeting turned into like a 3-hour meeting. Always bumped into each other around York and things. So kind of then it was, you had a bad experience with a certain, with a placement, didn't you? So, and then it kind of like just aligned at that point where I had the opportunity to join and help businesses retain the talent, but also get people engaged. Everyone's been in that position where they've been in a job that they don't necessarily enjoy and they dread on a Sunday night where you've had a really nice weekend and gets to 6 o'clock on a Sunday night. I've got work in the morning, I've got to go to the office, or I've got to be on this call or whatever. So, everyone's had that manager that they don't like working for, that they've left because of, it's quite a common thing, really. I mean, I think it's 62% of people leave because of a manager, which is crazy stats. But I then took this role on to help Michelle spread the word of how to improve that so people aren't in that situation, because there's nothing worse. So, but absolutely loving it. So,
do you think that's the biggest kind of driver of engagement in terms of the management and the capability of the management tier within an organisation?
It's a big contributing factor, I think, isn't it?
Huge,
so it's the research is carried out by McKinsey and things like that. It tends to pop up quite often. So like I said, 62% of the people are leaving roles because of incompetent managers or just because they don't like their manager, and that's probably the biggest stat you're going to get in why people leave their job. So it's definitely there.
And I think leaders and managers have got such a massive responsibility, but also an impact they can have on people's engagement. When you look at, we do staff, like colleague surveys, it covers such a raft of areas, but actually managers have got nearly on every single area, they've got some impact, whether it's on communication, whether it's on how valued somebody feels, whether it's on the culture, whether it's on the team, whether it's on the vision and the values. There's so many different parts that leaders have got to play in that. So if you've got either a leadership team who are just feeling really uninspired, or they've never had any development. I mean, I was reading a stat recently that was saying that we work primarily with small, medium-sized businesses. Only 17% of small and medium-sized businesses invest in leadership and management development. So, you've got what we always call the accidental managers. They're probably people. I was chatting to a lovely client we've worked with for over 10 years only yesterday, and they've got people that have worked with them for the years, and they really love them. They really value them. But so what they've done is they've promoted them to managers. Now, they've been great. They've been developing them. But actually what we see is people just don't do that. And then you end up with, you've lost your best salesperson and ended up with your worst manager.
Yeah.
But not for any fault of theirs or the company's. It's just that they haven't developed them or given them those opportunities. Or I think people also don't see that. I think we're trying to encourage our businesses to think 2 career routes, because some, particularly like in your industry, some technical people are really brilliant. They're really brilliant experts and really great technically, but just probably not really managing isn't maybe their thing. So actually give a career opportunity and make a career path for people that's a technical one, whether that's engineering, IT, whatever it is, and then have another one which is for managing people, because everybody thinks they have to manage people to get on in the company. Yeah. And actually it's just not for everybody, and that's fine.
You're so right. We had that challenge at a previous company. It was, great technical people wanted to progress. They wanted to get promoted, and the level above them, if you like, was a manager. And but some of them you look at and you think you're a great technical person, but you're not a manager.
I remember
people don't always enjoy it. Like, they don't like being in charge of people. It's quite a large responsibility, and you're carrying a lot of accountability.
And
so
I think for some people, it's just, I remember years ago working with a construction company, and they had a director, and the managing director said, "We've just created a monster in this director because he shouldn't be let loose with people. He's brilliant. He's an absolute expert, but we've given him this role and he's just a disaster." Yeah. So it's play to people's strengths, isn't it? I guess that's the key.
It's the personal elements of that as well. So I saw something on a quote on LinkedIn which kind of blew my mind of your manager or your line managers are just as influential on your mental health, for example, as a therapist is. You're spending so much time with them as a manager. They can have such an impact. If they're quite not as supportive as they could be, then your whole mental health is going to have an impact on that. So they're the key to that as well. You're spending 40, 50 hours a week with them. Then that's quite important.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's quite a responsibility for the manager potentially as well. Yeah. Like they may not even be, they may not have signed up for, or they're not aware that that's happening. Because I think generally speaking, this is why hybrid's important. Because we need time apart. Do you know what I mean? It's also
like a relationship. It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Because really, if you think about it, if we're in the office every day, I would see you more than I'd see my own family.
I know, you're very fortunate.
That's outrageous.
You've seen this.
Do you want to just move in with me? I work from home, so that'll be easy. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I think this whole engagement thing though, there's a lot, we're talking about COVID and stuff like that. I sort of feel like it's also just times are changing. We live in a different era now. I don't know if social media has affected this, whether in a good way or a bad way. But I certainly do feel like as we become more comfortable as a society, we have less kind of need to be fulfilled and stuff like that. We do kind of have the time to because I'm guessing our grandparents, for example, couldn't sit around and think, what's my purpose in life? My purpose in life is to make sure that my family, survive a war or whatever. And that's in this country. So if you take that to a global level. So for me, there's definitely something there where it's once human beings, I guess, get to a certain quality of life, they then have maybe it's a first world problem, right? They then have the freedom to sit back and think, well, actually, what is my purpose? And I think actually in society now, there's an obsession with having a purpose. And I think just not everyone's called to be a manager. Not everyone wants a purpose, right? Not everyone wants some grand thing. They feel like they should have one because that's what they're seeing, like everywhere they look, like society and social media, whatever, is like cramming it down your throat that like, if you aren't achieved X, Y, or Z, you're nothing. And it's like, so people then feel like, well, I don't want to be nothing, but at the same time, I don't really want a purpose. So like, what do I kind of do? Yeah. And just to end my little tangent, it reminds me of, there's an animated series on Netflix called Carol and the End of the World. And basically it's about this meteor called Kepler B, and it's like, it's coming towards Earth. Like you can see it in the sky every day. Everyone knows the world is going to end. And a large majority of people just boozing, sleeping with strangers, walking around naked. They're just like, right, the world's going to end. I'm just going to enjoy myself and do everything that I was too scared to do. But then you've got people who just like, they're just not that type of person. They're quite reserved. Probably your people, because you love working. So they stumble across this business that's still running. It's called, the business is called The Distraction. And it's for people who just want a sense of normality in these final days. So they go to this office and they just work in this office. They don't even know what the work is that they're doing, but it's just they have routine, they have like work friends and stuff like that. It's very interesting. I'm saying you should give it a watch. But
I disagree. I think everyone needs a purpose, and you see it with retired people that they can't wait to retire, and they retire, and then they think, what do I do? And then they go back into work sometimes.
Yeah, but are we talking? But is it purpose, small P or capital P? Because I think people think that they need purpose.
So I think people without a purpose could be the most dangerous people in the workplace. So, and let me explain. So if
I love this, Dan.
Go. Spitting bars. When we do, when we look at engagement, we look at 3 categories. So we've got engaged, neither engaged, disengaged, and then we've got actively disengaged, pretty much.
Yeah.
So the ones that haven't got a purpose, they would fall underneath that middle category. So neither disengaged or engaged. Yeah. Satisfied, I think we call them. So they fit in a satisfied category. So if they spend a little bit of time with someone who's actively disengaged, they're naturally going to go into actively disengaged because they haven't got a purpose. And that could be the purpose of, aligned with the company purpose, or aligned with they're doing a role that actually excites them, or, it ticks all the boxes. So for me, I'm quite an ambitious person. So if I got a job that really didn't tick all of that, didn't give me the accountability to do that, I'm going to be sat there in the middle. I'm going to spend 5-10 minutes with someone who's actively disengaged. And because I haven't got that purpose of my own sense of belief, I'm going to become actively disengaged. And before you know it, that's 2 people actively disengaged. You're going to end up having that herd mentality eventually, and you get more people falling in satisfied. They're going to become actively disengaged. So if it's a real danger spot, really. I call it. We do a workshop every month. It's where we can get businesses up to Europe. And we talk about the whole element of engagement, and that satisfied, neither disengaged or engaged. That's a danger zone. And everyone who fits in that area, they tend to not have a purpose, and they don't know what their purpose is. So therefore, they're doing the wrong thing. So they're just in the wrong role for themselves. So I think everyone should have a purpose. It might not. It's never going to be the same. Your purpose is going to be very different to mine. That's not saying we're not as ambitious as each other, but if we haven't got our purpose, and we wouldn't be doing things on a day-to-day basis that genuinely make us happy. What would make you happy if you didn't know your purpose? I mean, mine is, my purpose is to kind of help. Like I said, I've taken this role on because I want to help spread the word about how to keep employees happy. That's how that improves productivity. It helps businesses grow. I love business. I'm fascinated by it. Always find myself reading the Times and the Financial Times because I'm just fascinated by it. So that's my purpose. I want to help people grow.
Some people's purpose might just be to go to work and earn a salary and then go home and spend time with kids. Sure. And that's all right.
Listen, I guess and everything that you just said, I think spot on, makes a lot of sense. For me, it's like using purpose. It's like saying career, right? It's like the words have been sort of bastardized in a way, and overused. Everyone's got to have a career. We've all got a career. Well, actually, most of us don't really have careers, right? Because a career, in the realist term, is the thing I would do, even if no one paid me to do it. Like the thing that you like, vocation. Do you know what I mean? The thing that you're destined to do. Yeah. That's bit career, right? These words, they're important, like they're to be used in certain situations, right? purpose. Like purpose is a real thing.
I totally agree, because I've had this conversation with my kids. I've got 2 boys who are 24 and 20, and the 24-year-old for a long time really didn't know what he wanted to do, and he was really stressing about it. That same thing, you know, it rammed down the throats. You've got to go to university, have a career, do this, and he didn't, and he was really floating around, but he was really, really unhappy. And I just kept saying to him, just don't worry about it. You know, you might not ever, you know, some people never find what they're meant to be doing in the world. I feel like I was really lucky, because I just completely by accident got the opportunity to train. I worked in an IT department and actually got the opportunity to train some people on a system, and I just thought, this is what I love. I love knowing I've got some knowledge and helping somebody else. So I was just really lucky. I found that and that's when I realised the light bulb for me went on. This is what I'm meant to do in life. I've just got a really great ability to be able to communicate things in a way that makes it simple for people.
Me again. Okay, I want to talk about another process that we often get asked to automate, which is the processing of sales orders. So think about a sales order coming into an organization. Often it's in a PDF or attached to an email. We're using capture technology to extract the information from that sales order. We're checking what products are on there. We're matching it up against a database to say, do these products exist? We're checking the customer name to say, does this customer exist? We might even check the pricing to make sure the pricing is accurate. If all of that matches, then again, we can just push it straight into an ERP system or a finance system, and nobody has to touch it. If there are issues with it, if there are things that don't quite match, we just push that to somebody to manually review and check. But ultimately, again, we're pushing it into an ERP or finance system. It's all about making your life easier. It's about making your team's life easier. And it's about getting cash into your organization quicker and more efficiently. Hopefully that sounds good. If it does, then get in touch. Let's have a coffee and a chat. Enough from me. Back to the podcast.
So is there anything you'd rather do that you'd love to do?
Not really. I think I've been really. I mean, I always wanted to be an actress.
There we go. That's your purpose. There we go. How easy was that? She couldn't even resist. She knew I laid the trap, and then she's just like
fell straight into the trap. Been here 30 minutes, and that's it. You're changing your career.
I've done it. It was in a local village. Yeah. You know, I've played a cat and a bumblebee and a nun, and I got pregnant halfway through. But there you go.
Sounds like one of your Christmas videos.
Yeah, I think my purpose is to be chilling out on the beach with a whiskey sour.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Whiskey sour is a cocktail to go to be fair.
Yeah, solid.
Solid.
Yeah, well, I think actually Dan shared my purpose really eloquently earlier on when he said jetting off around the world or cruising.
Yeah,
but I think that the most important thing there is obviously everyone's got different purpose, which you've touched on, and it was a really good point that you made of the word purpose has kind of been bastardized, really. You know, it definitely has, and now everyone's in the mindset of, especially the younger generation, of they need to be earning 6 figures a year, and they need to be doing this, and this. You need to be CEO by the age of 27 and stuff like that. It's not always achievable. So, and then you are falling into a negative trap of that. So it is really important. But then to spin it back to the engagement side of things, you know, how is a manager going to know that unless you're talking to them about that? So. Yeah, true. And so my purpose in life, you know, I know my purpose. I don't know it because it might change in 5 years' time. Yeah. But if I'm not talking to Michelle about that, then I'm going to become disengaged as well. I'm going to fall into that trap of becoming actively disengaged because Michelle isn't helping me meet my purpose. So in fact, she could end up becoming a blocker because my purpose is I'm here to make sure she can jet around the world, but she might not let me achieve that. So therefore she's becoming a blocker because I'm not talking to her about that. So I think that's the link back to engagement.
There's on the workshop that we do, that half-day workshop that we run once a month, one of the slides is a definition of engagement. It talks about, you know, somebody being really engaged is they're really committed to the goals and values of the organisation. Yet actually when you look at a lot of businesses haven't got those clear. People, they're not sharing them. So how can you be committed to the goals and values of the organisation if you don't even know what they are? And I think that's the key. And it's probably our purpose is maybe with a little p, because it's that, like, when I come into work every day, I need to know that what I'm doing is making a difference somewhere, that I'm actually contributing to something bigger than just this thing here. So actually, you know, your utopia is individuals getting their version of success, which is maybe about fulfilling what they want want to do in life, and then what if they have got a career, what they're wanting to do. So there's an element of fulfilling that for people and that sense of well-being, so they feel happy and comfortable with where they're at. But then there's also the business version of success, which is people maximizing the best and getting the very best out of people as well. And what you want is that kind of perfect storm of everybody feeling really fulfilled and comfortable and committed in their roles, and the business getting the best out of people that work for them.
Is that possible? Everybody.
Yeah.
So do you? The reason I ask is, do you get certain people that are natural inclination to be disengaged? And
mood hoovers, we call them. Mood hoovers.
You put it better than me. But and do you agree that you do get those people?
I think there are. My view is most people in the world don't go into work to be miserable gits. I think most people go in to try to do the best they can and to do the best job they can. I'm not saying every single person. I think there are some people who are just that way inclined. You don't want them in your business. You don't want people like that in your business.
So what
because
do you do?
They're toxic.
If you end up with people in your business that...
You help them to identify why they're not happy there. Because what's really interesting, isn't it, is when you... I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I ran a team building event, and it was for a big law firm, and they had about 30 associates working in this law firm. And I walked into the room with a colleague to run this full day. And as soon as I walked in, I could see her. She looked like a bulldog chewing a wasp. She did not want to be there. Everything in her being was like, and it was like, oh, we'll call her Mary. And she was a nightmare. She completely tried to disrupt the day. And what was really interesting, going back to what you were saying, is she was picking off people who were in that satisfied middle ground bit, because the engaged people didn't want to play. They were like, when they saw Mary coming over, they were like, I don't want to talk to Mary because she's miserable. So what she was doing was picking off those, because they don't want to be there on their own. That's the problem with people like that, is they just don't want to. It's a lonely place being a mood hoover and being disengaged. So they try to pull people to the dark side, if you like. So, but when I spoke to the MD at lunchtime and said, what are you doing with Mary? Has she been with you for a long time? He said, oh no, she's only been with us about a year. I was like, well, why are you putting up with that behaviour? And he went, well, she's really good at what she does. But have you any idea the damage that she's doing to your other people? And he just didn't see it.
So how much time do you spend working on Mary to get Mary to come across the spectrum?
That's the dangerous thing,
and that's
isn't it?
You end up spending loads of time with the mood hoovers, don't you, if you're not careful.
And then what happens from that is, you've got your actively engaged people who we call them mood groovers, complete opposite to a mood hoover, because they're not getting the time. They're not. You're spending most of your time on Mary, who's a mood hoover. What happens to the mood groovers? They're working their ass off. They're hitting their numbers, hitting the targets. Doing everything, but they're not getting any recognition or time with you, because you're focusing all your time on a mood hoover. They're going to slowly go down. They're going to end up in that middle ground, and before you know it, they're probably looking for other jobs. They leave because they get a better offer. Before you know it, that's costing the business 12 to 18 months salary of that person as well. So you're in a massive deficit there. Or they're going to go even further, and they're going to go to actively disengaged. They're going to become a mood hoover as well. So and then there's more people there, creating that herd mentality again. So
it's really dangerous. I think we often see it as well. We go into a company. Well, you see, if we do a survey, because it always comes out in the survey, one of the areas that we explore is, are people who are performing well being recognised, and are people who are underperforming being managed? And if they're not being managed, it comes out in the survey, and it's that thing that proper cheeses everybody off. Like, why am I working off my socks when that person over there, Mary, is getting away with swinging the lead and not pulling away? So not managing it is a big problem. But I also think as well, managers are really frightened to have honest conversations with people now. It's almost like everybody's like, oh, you can't say that and you mustn't say that. Well, just be honest with people and let them know, actually, that's not okay. That's not acceptable to behave like that. It's not what we want in our company. And so this is what we expect. And if you can't do that, then you need to find somewhere that's going to make you happy. But I don't think it's here. So it's sometimes having those really honest conversations that I think people are just frightened to have. But I also think the other thing you have to do is make it clear what you do expect from people, because I think that's the other issue is people don't. So we've got a core set of values in our business. They're absolutely intrinsic with everything we do. We recruit against them. We make sure that when people join us, so Dan, we gave him a really hard time about, making sure he's aligned to our values, because that's really important to me that people align to our company values. But then it gives you a tool as well to say, this is really important to us and you're not doing that. So actually, you need to sort your stuff out. And what help do you need to get there? Or actually, is this the right place for you?
Is there not a risk with that approach that you end up recruiting like-minded, same type of people? No.
Personally, I don't think so. I think the values is quite different. So if, I don't know, Dan, you might agree with this or not, but I think everybody in our team is completely different. They're all very different people, but they've all got a core set of aligned values that are, I think, which is why we work so well together.
Yeah,
but you're all really. I don't think any of you were alike at all.
No, so we use a profiling tool called DISC. And all of us have done that. So we do it part of the we did it as part of the interview process as well. So, and actually, if you look at all the results from the 11 people that work for Pro Development, they're all very, very different. We've all got the same values, but whereas I sit underneath the dominance of the DISC. I'm very much straight to the point. I want to see the end product straight away. I don't want to beat around the bush. But if we go to Michelle, completely different.
Super excitable.
Yeah, super excitable. It's all over, all singing and dancing.
All over the place. Yes, so it's all right, you can say it. You can say it.
Hence why she wanted a career in acting. That's what she'd been great at it. Yes. But yeah, so me and Michelle are completely different.
Is that like Insights DISC?
Yes. Yeah, similar type of thing. Okay. Yeah, it's just about people. We're all different. But I also think as well, there's something about, because I think you're right, there is always a danger of people, and we see it in companies where people are recruiting in the mould, and it's the mould of probably the leadership team. And I think as well, it's when they're not being really clear about what it is they need in the roles as well, and also really understanding what are the strengths and the skills that we need in this role as well, rather than just recruiting another version of somebody who's like yourself.
So in your last sort of 13, 14 years working with businesses, whether you can name the business or not, but you could describe them. What's the best business that you've worked with in terms of an ability to engage colleagues and get people?
I'm interested in this answer.
Yeah.
Let me,
my God,
I should come sit round that side of the table.
Yeah. Oh no, look, I feel like you're all over. I don't think I could name any one because there's quite a few. There's some that are still on that journey. I think we meet companies along the last 12 years, and they're all at different stages, and there's some that are probably never engaged with us because they just probably don't get it. You meet people who's like, oh, well, we're all right, we're doing all right, and you think, right, okay, they'll never kind of go on that journey. But they're all at different places. But I think for me, the ones that I see doing really well are the ones that just genuinely care about the people. You can see it, and we won't work with a client unless we can see there's a genuine care. They might not always know how to get everything right, but they genuinely care about the people. They've got really clear vision and values that everybody's kind of completely on board with. They all understand them. They share it regularly. They don't just like do I remember years ago meeting a client who said, everybody in our company knows our vision. We did the survey, nobody knew it. And I was like, what have you done? Oh, well, we did a PowerPoint presentation 18 months ago, and they'd never talked about it since. So the ones that are doing really well are constantly referring back to it, connecting people to it, taking opportunities. They bring the teams together. I see loads of companies who never do anything with the whole company. They never get everybody together. I was like, oh, it's too expensive. We can't do that. Well, why not? That's that day that you spend with that team massively impacts on how they perform and how they connect with the business as well. So they've got great managers. They're developing the managers. They recognise that it's a skill set. We work with accountants and lawyers who spend a fortune really getting people qualified, but yet do nothing for managers and leaders. So they the ones that are doing really well are really investing in people, but really investing in the rest of the team as well. They're having really good one-to-ones regularly. That's another big thing we see. Lots of companies just never do one-to-ones. They're not doing proper reviews. I think we were just chatting to one of your guys earlier, and she was saying you have I can't remember what the word that she uses. VIP, yeah. So that idea of actually really spending time to understand what is somebody's career, what do they want to do, how are you helping them, how are they helping themselves, what's the manager doing to support them, and so having those talent and succession plans in place, and then letting people know how you're supporting them on that as well. I think lots of things that people do that are really great, but we've got some top-notch clients who are doing that year on year. And when you look back, it's really interesting. I was chatting yesterday to this client that we've been working with for over 10 years now, and when I first went to meet them, they've spoken quite openly about it was just horrendous. They just had this business. It had grown arms and legs. There were people falling out. They had 2 teams that wouldn't speak to each other. It was, you walked in, you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. It was just dreadful. And they were like, oh, we've had enough. You know, what have we done? How has this happened? You know, you fast forward a few years, they're just this massive buzz of energy. It's a bit like when you walk in here, you just get this sense of a real buzz of energy. Everybody's really kind of clearly enjoying what they're doing and working together. And when you look back at every plan that they did every year, there's nothing like really like out there on it. They've just every year, they've just focused on a bit of, right, this is what we're going to focus on this year. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get these one-to-ones in, and now we're going to really get our talent and succession plans in place. And now we're going to really start exploring people's careers and how we can support them with that. So every year they've just focused a bit on something else. And I think that's the best way to do it. Don't try and just do huge things. Just keep chipping away. Basics, doing well. Keep checking how have those things worked. You know, are they working? Check again. Make another plan. Check again, and just keep chipping away at it until you get to a great place.
There you go, Bax. That's what we need to do.
Sounds like a plan.
It does.
Can you write that down for me?
Can you imagine a world though where someone does like an employee engagement survey and then they find out it's quite a negative survey and they don't do anything about it? And that's kind of what we're trying to stay away from, isn't it? So those sort of businesses where we're trying to, you can get a feel if they're going to do it. Yeah. And there's no point investing in something like that if it's just a tick box exercise. So people will leave. You know, you get asked, you know, what's the biggest, let's say what's important to you. If someone comes back and say, oh, I don't like Friday fruit bowl, but you carry on giving them fruit bowl anyway. They're going to feel undervalued and they're going to go. So.
Or guessing, which is the other thing that I think a lot of companies that we come across will guess what they think. Oh, let's do this. This will be really great. We'll do this thing on a Friday. That'll be great. And then actually what you find out is that, you know, the fact they've all got broken chairs is the problem. And so they're just cheesed off thinking, oh, great, bringing pizzas on a Friday. But actually we've got some big stuff going on here that you're not sorting. It just actually has the reverse effect. They just think, you know, I mean, we joke about the fruit basket because we did have one survey that had so many comments about this fruit basket. You were like, what?
What, that they didn't like it?
Yeah, because actually and it's so sad because the owners had thought, oh, that'd be a really nice thing to do. We'll bring a lovely fruit basket in on a Friday. Everybody will love that. There was so many comments about it because actually they didn't care. There was some big stuff that wasn't getting sorted. Right. So what, you know, don't give us a fruit basket and think that that's going to sort it out. We need other stuff sorting out. So it can actually end up having the reverse effect, which is a real shame because you could see people were genuinely trying to do it for the right reasons. But, you know, you need to, it's about your people. You know, we all have businesses. Yeah. We wouldn't have them without people. So we need to kind of take them on that journey with us and understand what is it that they're looking for.
Is it an easy sell to SMEs in terms of what you guys offer in terms of consultancy?
I wouldn't say it's easy. No, I don't think it's easy. I think it's, I don't know. I think if you, I don't know, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I think you come across an individual that doesn't, not even understand, doesn't agree with engagement. And, you know, it's a real old school way of thinking. Like, you know, people come to work and they'll do it and go home. They'll get a paycheck, they're going to do it. It doesn't matter if they're happy or not, they're going to turn up and do it. But I think it's and that's what makes it quite difficult, I think, because there's not a lot of people that are open-minded enough to go, what's the benefits of it? If I had a really engaged employment team, like a team, what's the benefits of that? And we can show them that, we can educate them on that. But then it's having that sort of brave, kind of like, what's the word? Well, we often say if you're going to do a survey, you have to put your big boy pants or your big girl pants on, because the honesty that comes with it is it can be quite brutal.
If it doesn't make your bottom clench a bit when you're reading the results, then you've not done it right.
I think people are fearful of it. I think that's probably the word. People are fearful and naive about it, of how it can have an impact, but also what's happening in their business without them knowing. That could be quite scary to them, I think.
I don't want to hear it. Yeah, actually, I think there's some people that just don't want to hear it, and I just think, well, there's no point in doing a survey. You know, if you don't want to hear it, it's such an opportunity to give people that voice, but you kind of need to be prepared for that. And we do a lot of work with people leading up to before we even think about doing a survey, because it's definitely not for everybody. And there are definitely some people where I've said, I just don't think you're ready for it. It's pointless doing it if you're not ready for it, because you know, otherwise you're not going to do anything with it. And then
in the sense of they're not ready to receive that feedback yet.
Yeah, they're not ready to hear it, or they're not open to it, and we've said, there are some people that we just will never work with, and that's fine. We're not trying to run the world, are we? We're just trying to maybe outrun the Humber.
You can flip it, and then on the other side of that, though, you've got some fantastic businesses out there. Whether we work in the SME space, there's some fantastic businesses there that one is scared of, because finding people now, recruitment's just hard. It's really difficult. So, and they've recognised that it's not easy to be able to replace a really talented individual. So they're chucking everything they've got at and making their team members happy because they want to keep them. And that's, there's some awesome businesses out there that are doing that, and they're all people focused, and that's really kind of refreshing. We're there to help loads of people. So
pick your clients well.
Yeah, we're really picky. We're not really picky, but they have to meet our criteria, don't
definitely.
They have to.
Well, it's like our values. So in the same way that I said, we recruit to our values, one of our values is having fun.
Yeah.
And so we share that with potential clients, because I say, if you don't want to have fun, we are not the people to work with.
Yeah.
Because we only want to have fun. And actually, when you're learning and developing, that is the best time to have fun.
Yeah.
So that means that sometimes we'll choose not to work with people, or they might choose not to work with us. But great, because it's never a happy ending, is it, when you're working with somebody that you don't have a shared value set.
That's a great value, by the way. Just
we
having fun.
So. Yeah, too right.
You do?
No, that's where it says out then. No
fun.
There's a picture of someone having lots of fun. I'm joking. No, that's a good value, actually. Yeah, have fun. Because you're right, like the success of this journey that you take them on is reliant on how much they're willing to get on board, isn't it? So if you can detect early on that they're not really interested, it's a nice to have whatever, then really, what's the point in you even working with them in the first place? And if you can't have fun, why are you doing it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we often tell on the workshops, don't we? I can always tell. We always say to anybody who we meet, or people that when we're out networking, or people who might meet a company and say, oh, get yourself on Michelle's workshop. I can always tell by the end of that workshop if they're people that we want to work with or not.
Yeah.
And that's great, because it gives them a chance. It might be they decide we're not for them. That's not a problem. Or it might be we think, then they're just not getting it, and that's fine. That's not, we're not going to change everybody, but we want to just help the ones that do want to make a difference. And
Good. Right. Our podcast is called Tomorrow's Workplace Today. So I've asked you about looking back over the last 13, 14 years. If I ask you to cast your mind forward 13, 14 years, what's going to change in terms of engagement and in terms of the next generation of the workforce, do you think?
It's almost hard sometimes, I think, to get your head around, isn't it? We were chatting about this the other day, that potentially Dan's come in to be a future director. That's potentially going to be in the next sort of 7 years. And I actually have said to him, I think the business will look completely different in 7 years' time. Obviously, AI is going to have a massive impact on the way we work. I think potentially it could be really good. So I think it could be about people getting to do really valuable work. A lot of the things that AI can do, I think, will take away some of the drudgery from a lot of jobs. I went to a really great session at Hull College recently. A woman was speaking about AI, and she was looking at all the jobs that are going to change. There's some jobs that will, that currently now will be completely replaced by AI. But there are some jobs that we don't even know yet what they're going to be, because there's just going to be a whole set of new jobs around stuff that we can't even get our heads around. I mean, certainly around AI and technology. But actually, one of the interesting things that was they saw education and development as an area that would be a growing area from a people point of view, because I think people are always still going to need that people development, the growth, the support around that. That I think AI will be able to support some of that. But it's interesting. Years and years ago, it was like, e-learning is going to completely change the way that people learn and develop, and it really hasn't. It's become an additional thing that we can kind of dip in and out of, but it hasn't massively fundamentally changed the way that people learn and develop. It's just given us some extra tools to work with, and I think it will be the same with AI.
Do you think we might get rid of managers? Did we talk about this one?
That's a question. Now throwing a grenade in there,
It's like self-governance or something. Like,
oh my God, you honestly.
What?
You live in the clouds. You do.
Someone's got to. You know what I mean? I think we were talking about in a previous podcast about the gig economy and sort of I can't really remember what it was now, but basically you rate the people that you work with or whatever. So the rating then becomes almost like the management system.
Self-governance. Yeah, okay. I'll get that.
So kind of...
You still can't get rid of me.
Get your head up there with the clouds.
Is that, are you trying to get rid of him? Is that your motive?
No, of course
Is that your purpose? Is that trying to...
I think there's something about we're seeing it a little bit. We've just started introducing in the last 12 months something called the leadership behaviours framework, and it's not just about leaders, because traditionally we think about leaders, don't we, of people who are managing people.
Yeah.
So our concept that we're working with is that everybody is a leader. Doesn't matter what you do. And I think there's something really quite special if you can create that culture in your business where everybody sees themselves as a leader. I always love that really famous story of Tilly Smith, the 10-year-old girl who saved hundreds of lives on a beach in Phuket because she actually, to me, demonstrated amazing leadership. And she was 10 years old. She got everybody off that beach. She'd learnt about tsunamis in geography. She saw the water recede. She got everybody off that beach. She was 10 years old. That is leadership to me. And I think that's what we need more of, is people stepping up and being more accountable and taking ownership for things and being brave and being more vulnerable, all those things that we're talking more about. And so a lot of this leadership framework we're implementing for a lot of businesses is this concept of leading self. There's a whole set of behaviours around what does it look like to lead self. Then there's a whole set of behaviours around leading others and then leading the organisation. So, but actually, how amazing would it be if you had a whole company of people who were all leading themselves? It makes the leading others role different then, because you're not having to do a lot of the things we're probably doing now. So I think the role of the leader could change in the future, but hopefully for the better.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and a good place to end.
A very good place to end. Michelle, Dan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
It's been great. It's been great to talk to you both.
Really good to speak to you.
You might even say it's been engaging.
That's a time to end it, I think.
Yeah.